Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon in Europe today. I'm joined by Philip from Spain.
Hi there.
So we're going to try and do some remote pair testing. Philip, I'm using Slack, and Philip's able to see my screen, um, and he's able to control certain things. So would you like to give that a test run there, Philip?
Sure. I'm
Yeah.
trying to open a new tab,
Okay. Sweet.
switching to the other window. Yeah, it's working right now.
Yeah, so you should be able to see Philip's pointer as guest and my pointer around here. And so we're just gonna try this testing with remote and live streaming. We're just gonna test all the internet. Well, actually, not quite, but um,
Almost.
almost all the internet. Um, we're going to try and compare Firefox and Chrome today. We're just going to do a side-by-side comparison for testing. I think it's really good to, if you're working on a feature or a product, to do a side-by-side comparison with similar like products. I know when I was doing testing for a mobile app, which was a meditation app, having a look at how other meditation apps handle things like sign-ons and registrations and whatnot is, I think, that good grounding to figure out what's a good comparison. It might lead you to discover other bugs, it might not. When was the last time you did a side-by-side comparison for a product, Philip?
Actually, I've done it quite recently because I work with the product that I have to work with. I have to do this all the time, where I compare even the slightest, smallest features of the brand I work for as opposed to the other brands. And
Mm.
typically, we find a lot of differences there. Sometimes we see that maybe something works best in a certain format, and it gives us a lot of room for ideas.
Yeah, cool. Do you mind actually telling us a little bit about yourself? I was just about to jump into the testing, and I feel like I completely skipped on the introducing my guest.
No worries. So, to anyone hearing me for the first time, I'm Philip. I'm currently working as a tester in Adidas. I'm Portuguese, and I'm currently living in Spain with my wife, who's also Portuguese. In my free time, I try to contribute to open source software as a coder. I also run a blog, which maybe at the end we can
Yep.
share a link.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
link to that.
and that's about it. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. I'm a huge WWE wrestling fan, and my wife is an even bigger fan than I am.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Okay, cool. So in terms of doing a side-by-side comparison of, say, developer tools for Firefox and Chrome, I'm just gonna get up some
Sure.
notes. Firefox, Chrome, um, and we'll just take notes as we go along. So would you like to open up the dev tools? I think in Firefox. I'll let you try and do the driving as much as possible.
Okay, sure. So usually I never remember how to open them through the keyboard shortcuts. So typically what I would do is I would go to a page. We can go maybe to
Yep.
an example page.
Yep.
Let's open, for example, GitHub.
Mhm.
And usually what I would do is I would right click here and click on inspect, and it would bring me to the DevTools.
Yep. And so we've got
This,
quite.
this is what I would typically do
Yeah.
because I can never memorize where here is the option for the, oh, actually it's here, but I
Yeah.
can never memorize the the keyboard shortcuts.
That's okay. It doesn't really look like there's a easy to remember keyboard shortcut there.
Yeah,
Um, so there's quite a few tabs up the top of the dev tools. Um, it's pretty interesting. So we've got the inspector, which will inspect the HTML elements generally on page. Does it show you JavaScript or CSS, or is it mostly just the HTML?
Well, it shows there are a few of the elements where they include, I think, the JavaScript there.
Yeah.
No, script.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, sorry?
And if we scroll upwards, we might find in the head, we'll usually find the other CSS links and others.
Ah, yes. Cool. So there's a bunch of stuff you can discover when exploring websites just by using some of the dev tools available. I do enjoy how I think Firefox, they used to have the dev tools as a plugin that you had to install. I'm glad that they're now included by default into Firefox. I haven't used Firefox in a little while.
Actually, I do think that at one point it was not a matter of Firefox not having the tools by themselves, but there was another package where the tools were better to use, I think, or
Ah,
that developers prefer to use. So they installed those in detriment of the usual one that came with Firefox. But I'm not sure. I remember seeing this trend in 2015 where we would usually install for Firefox some different web console, so to speak.
yeah. I remember having to install extra stuff to get Firefox better. At the moment, this is fairly vanilla Firefox. I don't think I've added anything extra really. What does console? Console allows us to do stuff. I imagine send text and type stuff. It's generally what a console does. But I don't actually. Do you know how to use the console in this situation?
Yeah, for instance, you can use it as, from what I know, you can use it as standard JavaScript console, and you can pretty much, for instance, I could. What? The keyboard mapping is different between mine and yours.
Oh,
So, okay, maybe I'll be able to do this. You can pretty much do anything that JavaScript would
ah.
allow you to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. I built a little open source robot that was programmed in Node JavaScript, and being able to inject JavaScript code while the robot was still running really did help with live debugging. Some of the Lego robots that I've taken to kids has or taught kids. The only way to debug it is to run it and see what happens. It's pretty tedious procedure. But yeah, JavaScript is great if you know how to use it for doing that debugging on the fly. You can inject a whole bunch of wonderful things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a standard JavaScript developer, I see also this trend where people start using a lot of unit automated checking frameworks and whatnot to be able to, before even actually, okay, let's put this running and start debugging it, let's first do some unit checks to make sure that at least the blocks of code that we're making that they're working properly.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of other tabs up the top as well. We could explore each one individually, but I think I'd just like to do a side-by-side comparison. What I might do is might just take a screenshot of, oops,
Sure.
just to do a visual comparison later of the
Sure,
different
sure.
tools, at least the headings. I'm actually quite interested in exploring the accessibility feature. It's I wonder if that turns everything into, gives you all the plain text for the images.
It seems like it. If you open up the document, I think we'll be able to read everything else, and it's not probably not working properly because we see a lot of blank text, which might be related to hidden elements in
Yeah.
the page to make the page look some way.
Anyway, it's interesting that it's built into the developer tools now. I feel like it's a good move towards. So if we go into Chrome, we'll go to the same website. We'll go again to GitHub, not GitHub, github.com. I might be logged in on Chrome, so we might not be. Yeah, I'm not extremely active on GitHub, but it's remembered my login details at least. So
Okay.
if we can do the same thing here. It's just the when you right click inspect, it gives you the keyboard shortcut. So
Yeah.
we whereas Firefox.
In fact, Firefox has two now: inspect element and inspect accessibility properties. I wonder if that one goes directly to accessibility.
It does
I
look
think it
like
does.
it, yeah. So it looks like that image doesn't have any alt text, potentially.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Unless it's, yeah, it doesn't look like there's, I might just, oops, wrong one. Didn't mean to do that. I might put this up above the Slack so I can at least see it. Yeah, there's,
Sure.
unless there's something in the attributes, there might be an alt text. No, it doesn't seem like there's alt text. I'm pretty bad at remembering to put alt text on all the images on my blog. So don't follow my example. I find it. I wish there was just a way to do it as you're uploading the image, but you kind of have to go to the media item and then add the alt text, and it doesn't make it painless to do.
To be honest, I also think I don't do the same for my blog. So I have a few images in there, but I really think I never set up that property. I can't remember for sure.
Yeah. I try to include captions in my images because that's basically what I would write in the alt text anyway. And at least the alt text, the caption is at least readable. But yeah, I don't use the accessibility best practices on my blog like I should. Oh well. So when we're comparing Chrome with Firefox, we do have some similar features. It looks like it's actually located in a different area. Do you have a preference to having the dev tools at the bottom or to the side?
Actually, the first thing that I do, and I normally use Chrome, there's an option to put this on a separate window, and that's what I usually do, because at one point I just want to focus here on this page, just on the page itself, and then if I'm using like two monitors, or even if I'm not using two monitors, I like to just open this on another one and just maybe put them side by side. It gives me a
Yeah.
clearer view of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bit better. We can stretch that out a little bit. And I will also take another screenshot. Maybe I didn't save the last one. Oh, poo. Oh. So that's Chrome. Control. I have to save it.
Sure.
Come on. You can do it. Oh, I already did? Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself now. And if we go back to... never mind.
It's a snipping tool.
Yeah.
I think you close it. I think you have to open it again.
Yeah. I do that quite a fair bit. Accidentally close a bunch of stuff. So save that as Firefox. Cool. And that should be opened up in what is it? Oh no, downloads I think. But yep.
Yep.
Right, that opened up very large. Probably should get a different image view. I wanted to be able to compare these side by side. There we go. So I can see that Firefox does have an accessibility feature built into DevTools, and it doesn't look like Chrome does.
Yeah, right from the start, yes. And notice that, for instance, Firefox has this. They do make the intention of, for instance, putting small icons next to the options, maybe to try and give the user an easier sense, I think,
Yeah.
of where to find the option.
Yep.
Whereas Chrome, at least in the version you're using, I think doesn't do this.
Yeah, there's no easy icon navigation. It's I guess I don't know what the correct UI design term, but I guess it's menu driven. Um, um, yeah, I don't know if the images help in this, but I feel like it's generally a good design practice to have to try and use icons and words in the same place. Which is weird that Chrome doesn't do it because their material design style guide for developing Android apps is a pretty good doc, I think, in terms of getting ideas for that type of stuff.
Though I'm not sure if what I remember from their style guide, I'm not sure they do promote the use of a lot of icons, at least for these types of elements, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
We would need to go ahead and check that. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine the design teams who work on Android are a bit different to the ones that work on Chrome. In the giant world of Google.
Quite probably, yes.
Yeah. There is a difference in Firefox. There is a storage component. I wonder what
Yep.
what does that... I mean, like, that's not going to give us access to the database, I hope, because that would be pretty bad. But I guess cookies and cache and... Oh, so you can store stuff on the local browser. Just a couple of keys. Okay. And stuff about the session.
Yep.
Whereas if I was on... it could be interesting to explore each of these functions in more detail. But is there a way to access the same information on Chrome?
Well, just out of my head, maybe it's either. Which option did you press for Firefox actually? Memory or
Storage.
storage?
It's
Okay.
So I think the cookie inspector on Chrome is actually more of a...
What if you click on application? There.
Yeah. So
See?
yeah.
Local storage, session storage, cookies.
Okay, cool. They've just got a different name for it, but it looks like you can access the same functionality in there.
Yes, it does. Apart from maybe Web SQL, there's an option there called Web SQL. I don't think that option exists in the in Firefox.
No, they've just got an IndexedDB session,
Yep.
Which I don't know if that gives you. That looks like it can give you the database name if you've, I guess, if you manage to authenticate to connect to a database. That would be my assumption.
I think they use this type of DBs, but just for local execution purposes.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're using sort of one of those new sort of ways of working with websites, and you receive let's say you receive a portion of a database or a JSON file or something.
Okay.
And then you treat it as local database in order to put in data to your view, to what you're viewing. I think.
Yep.
But I'm not sure. I'm not a big of a front end developer or tester myself.
Yeah, no, that might make sense. Especially, I guess, GraphQL, which is used with Facebook, usually passes data in a more graphical no. Well, it's still JSON,
It's still JSON, yeah.
but you can play around with it more easily, or it's more like embedded SQL in JSON format, I guess, is the analogy I would use to make sense to me, but that might not necessarily be a true mental model of of how it works. I was trying to play around with caching and setting up a redirect on my blog on a previous stream, and I think I discovered that my mental model of how the internet works was just fundamentally wrong.
Just out of curiosity, how did you do that? What was the problem you were trying to solve, and how did you end up doing it?
Oh, I was just migrating my blog from a hosted service to a Google Cloud instance, and I just wanted to set up a redirect. But I think because my blog posts were static pages, I think they were served up from the cache I'd set up. So I tried deleting the cache, but the redirects to the blog post still wasn't working. The redirect on the homepage and to the WordPress admin was working fine. It's just the redirect on an individual blog post wasn't working, and I couldn't figure it out. So I'll have to read up a bit more on how caching works.
Internet or web development 2019.
Yeah, well,
Right?
it's one of those things I've never really had to study. I've just heard people go, oh yeah, we implemented a cache now, and our website is lots faster. Yay!
Well, I can tell you that, for instance, for my blog in particular, I use GitHub Pages, and basically what I do is on the side where I've bought my domain name, I just configure like what they call something DNS configuration and whatnot to
Yeah,
point it to the GitHub service.
yeah.
But I've never had to deal with cache and whatnot.
I just noticed that my WordPress blog was performing slowly. I'm like, oh, I should put a cache in because most of the pages are static anyway. And it was some of the pages that had PDFs and images attached were taking forever to load. I'm like, yeah. There was a WordPress plugin that I just enabled for caching, but I feel like it's kind of the hard way to do blogging these days, is to manage your own website. But I am learning a bit about how the internet works. So I really like Chrome's network functionality. So if you're doing like some API testing, just getting an understanding of what all the APIs are. I think if we refresh the page, we should see the requests happen in order. And you can see a whole bunch of stuff load up. Where is there a good API page view?
Well, I reckon if you maybe if you filter out by XHR actually,
Okay.
find a few.
Yep. So this one, status code 304, not modified. Oh, so when I did the refresh, the object itself wasn't hadn't changed, so it didn't actually recall it, I guess. The 200 dashboard feed. Oh, and it actually gives you what the dashboard feed returned. Is that? And that's this stuff here.
Yeah. If you look, that's a preview view. Well,
Yeah.
maybe if we check out the response.
Yep.
Oh, it's HTML. Okay. Okay, so I guess that this API in particular is returning HTML. Okay. So they're not following an approach where they, for instance, get a JSON and then they use that JSON data to transform the view.
Yep. They're just passing the raw HTML back.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess that's the server in a way telling the front end how to render this little bit, right? As opposed to the front end figuring out how to render it.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Mm.
But if you notice that there are already classes for the elements, so possibly this is like a fast way they figured out to, just send in the HTML data, add it to the to a parent element on the page, and then it will be faster because you already have the CSS loaded into the browser, I
Mm.
think.
Mm. Um, cool. So yeah, I find the network tab is quite useful for if you just want to get the format of some APIs. There's actually nothing in the recent activity was I don't know. Yeah. Okay. And I guess Firefox has got a similar network tab. What does you said to filter based on XHR? Um,
Yes.
what does that mean? I should maybe I should
Well,
Google it.
yeah. I know it's related to. I learned this at school. It's related to, yeah, XML HTTP requests. Yeah.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the form of an object whose methods transfer data between a web browser and a web server. Yep.
Okay.
I wonder why they use it instead of just, calling it API. Because I remember using this sort of terminology at school. This was like 2011 and whatnot, and even the school slides were old. But I guess it would be easier, even for people who are maybe I don't know, are not are non-coders, for instance, to just say API instead of XHR.
Maybe it's probably one of those things as just a legacy part of computers. For example, the save icon is a floppy disk, but who writes things to floppy disks these days?
Yeah, I can tell you that my younger brother, for instance, he wasn't born in the times of floppy disks, so he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. And I've heard someone quote that a kid saw a floppy disk and they're like, oh, you 3D printed the save icon. um, because well, it's something that after a particular age, no one's ever had to. I think you can still buy floppy drives, but they don't come pre-built into computers anymore.
No, yeah, definitely.
But we still use the floppy disk icon for a bunch of things. And if someone new came along and was like, "Why is that icon like that?" I'm like, "Someone picked it because it was a Tuesday."
But it's funny to think about this because I can't think of an alternative. I'm so used to it, and
Yeah,
it's grew to me in such a way that I can't think of an alternative that would also be, at least for me, that would be meaningful to represent the save button, for instance.
yeah. Um, and there's a bunch of other, I guess, features. Does Style Editor allow you to edit the CSS inline? I guess. Yeah, because you got a console here, so you can. Um, my CSS is very rusty. I wouldn't want to be injecting a bunch of CSS. Um,
Maybe I can help you out on this.
yeah, yeah.
For instance, this is what I usually do. Um, I go to inspect element, and in the inspector view that it opens up, typically you have here on the side, and here you can change a bit the CSS of the elements. So you
Okay.
could come here and say
Background pink or something.
background. Yeah. What? It's not working.
Oh, did you pick the right?
I think I did, but I think it's that one of those things where in CSS you have to say it's important. I'm not sure. If you
Oh,
type
there we go.
important, oh, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
because it depends on the rules of which CSS rule has the priority, I think.
yeah, yeah. I know front end developers will tend to make the CSS funky colors or have the padding have colors as well, so that they can quickly visually see what their code is actually doing. I think playing around with the CSS from a debugging of front end point of view is quite useful.
Yeah, definitely.
It's funny that sometimes the best way to debug front end though is just to inject a bit of extra colored CSS or something along those lines. If we go to Chrome, can we? I guess if we inspect the element, we can also change
Yeah, there
the
it is.
yeah, and there we go.
Exactly.
We've
Yeah.
made all of our links purple. You can actually, it's funny that you can zoom in and see the anti-aliasing happening on the pixel by pixel. That's
Yeah. And if you click on, oh, okay, cool.
and if I click on one, changes the, so if I want to change it to yellow, now all of my links are yellow.
I bet this is useful for front-end developers, I think. Because, for instance, if they're following like a mock page made by a designer, and they're working on a new page, I bet that it's easier for them, instead of just writing down the color.
Yeah.
Maybe they do this. They use this small tool to get the
Yeah.
colors
So
of
if
the
we,
mock they're seeing.
yeah, if we wanted to use the colors from Slack, oh no, we can't just color picker.
Just inside the browser?
Yeah, I guess it is just inside the browser. So we'd have to, like if we wanted to use the Google Red. Oops.
That's all.
Must be just on the page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So not as useful as you first thought.
Exactly. I was thinking that right now.
Yeah.
Definitely not as useful as I imagined it would be.
That's okay. That's fine. And if we get back our comparisons, so they're roughly in the same structure. Where's the other? Oh, right, here we go. So you're able to get the elements that had the console. Firefox has got a debugger rather than sources.
But I think, from what I remember, sources in Chrome is the same thing, more or less. So it allows you to put breakpoints on the JavaScript code, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the.
Notice that it also has, for example, here the this
Oh,
button,
yeah,
which in Firefox they also use to indicate the
the line break.
debugger. I think
Yeah.
this is the breakpoint icon, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's from the word sources, it doesn't make obvious sense. I think from what that feature should do, whereas the debugger with the debugger icon, I feel like that communicates more effectively, especially if you've used like a developer IDE before. That's usually pretty standard. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, but it then comes to which kind of users use this, right? I mean, if you're a developer-oriented user, maybe this makes the sources naming makes more sense. But as just a tester, I don't know. Maybe for me it makes more sense to debugger.
Yeah. But anyway, after that point, they do tend to change the order. You've got network next on Chrome, where network is not. It's a bit further down. The style editor. We've got performance in roughly the same spot. You got performance and memory side by side, and I guess they do tend to sit side by side, right? So it does make sense that they're next to each other.
But why do you say it makes sense that they are next to each other?
Generally, if you're having performance issues, they might be because it's a memory leak.
Okay.
Maybe. I just, well, yeah, just an observation that both Chrome and Firefox we've got performance and
Have them
memory.
side by side. Yes.
Yeah. So I could be just drawing connections, even though there's not. But I feel like if you're digging around into the performance of a particular page, seeing if there's any memory leaks or anything that's causing weird behavior, I think is useful. And there's a bunch of other tools you can use, I guess. Well, I noticed Chrome has got the mobile. Where are we? Chrome. There we go. If we go back to GitHub, and it gives you the mobile view. And I think
Indeed. For Firefox, it's there.
Oh yeah, it's just.
But it's on the other side.
Yeah. And okay, it just took a little while to render.
You didn't reload the page?
No.
I mean, refresh the page after clicking on the. Okay.
No, I think it just re-rendered, and it just took a little while to re-render.
There's one thing that's bugging a bit my mind is that, for instance, for Chrome, you have in one of these tabs you have a tab called Security. But for Firefox, you don't have it. There's nothing similar telling me about security in Firefox, I think.
Yeah. What do you think the security in Chrome does?
I have no idea. Let's find out.
Yeah. So do you want to take control of that? You want to drive?
Sure.
Okay.
Security overview. So it tells me about the connection and certificate and resources. Okay. So it's basically like a summary view of the sort of security condition of the page.
But there is
if there's something wrong with this.
Yeah.
Tell me.
There's some other extra information. I think you can, if there's errors, I guess. Maybe if there's...
yeah, it sounds like that.
If there's like an expired SSL certificate, I kind of expect this to come up here maybe. But there's also a console as well.
But isn't that part below always open, no matter what the tab you're in?
Yeah. Sorry.
I think it is.
Yep.
But it might not be related to the to this view.
No, I don't think so. It's just yeah.
So for instance, we found out a couple of things, right?
Yeah.
We found out there are tabs that are basically showing similar information like elements and inspector. But then there are a few tabs that are non-existent between one and the other. For instance, security tab in Chrome is not rightly available here on Firefox, I think.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like there's an extra thing you can add. But maybe.
So maybe if you, yeah, there, exactly. So for some reason they decided that it wouldn't be important to put it as part of the DevTools menu, but you can still access it from here. at least I think.
Yeah. So if you click on that should give you the who signed the certificate and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, and if you wanted to view the
How
certificate.
do we have this for Chrome also? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one thing. They left out the security tab. And can you click on the images again? I think I can. Hold up a bit. Now,
There isn't.
audits.
Yeah. There isn't. I've got no idea what that tab does.
Let's go back to the Chrome. Do you know which one is it? It's this
the second one is the dev tools.
audits. What is this? Identify and fix common problems that affect your site's performance, accessibility, and user experience.
Oh, okay. So, for example, if you wanted to audit your website that it meets the W3A2 or W3AG accessibility 2.0 standard, I guess you could run this against it. Maybe.
Well, we could try to run it and see if it complains about that image that we saw previously.
Yeah, okay, cool.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Let's put no throttling for now.
Yeah. I don't know what... Sorry, what were you going to say?
Tell me.
No, I was just going to say I've got no idea what Lighthouse has to do with this, other than I guess it's the name of the library that they're using. So yeah, it tells us that the performance is fine.
Performance shows a bit of like a trace view of how the page is loading up. Opportunities. Oh, okay. This might be like these are basically tips that you're giving to the developer on how they can improve the or save.
Like save 1 second off the potential load time.
Yeah, speed up your page load. Yeah, load time. Defer and use CSS, pre-connect origins, diagnostics. Progressive web app. I wonder if they have the accessibility here. Accessibility, here it is. Hold up.
So apparently the links do not have discernible names.
Form elements do not have associated labels. Background and foreground colors do not have a sufficient contrast ratio. Well, this is interesting. I would have never complained about this.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure some people need this to be in a quite there needs to be some sort of difference for people to in order to be able to see, right?
Yeah.
To at least yeah.
There's there's a plugin you can install on Chrome that can it's a disability simulator which can emulate a bunch of these different things. Like it can turn your browser into grayscale. It can give your mouse jerky movements to emulate someone who has tremors. There's a whole bunch of I think it's called Funkify. Do I have it installed on? No, that's I don't think I have it installed on this, but Funkify is a really cool plugin for Chrome.
Have you used it before?
Yeah.
At work or in projects?
Yeah. Yep. I've used it once or twice. It just allows you to simulate different abilities. So it can jumble up all the letters to simulate dyslexia, and a whole bunch of vision simulators as well. So it's a pretty cool thing to add.
Well, to me, on a personal level, there's from the start a problem here is that some part of this is under a paywall, I think, right? So what I would do is try to find a similar alternative that is open source.
I think they've
I
got. I've never used the premium features. I've only used the simulators. So it looks like. Well, I've been able to install it for free.
For free.
Yeah, but okay. So like, I
4-day
think
free full trial.
I imagine the robot Robin is kind of similar to the Lighthouse tool that we just executed, which will give you like that potentially code analysis of your
Report,
report of your website. But yeah,
Okay.
that's
Well,
an
that's cool.
interesting tab.
I didn't know that tool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So in summary, we've found some differences between Chrome and oh, actually, I got both of them open now. Where was the other? Firefox. There we go. So we've observed some differences between how Chrome and Firefox handle their developer tools. There's some features in Chrome that are interesting, and there's some things, well, in I guess in Firefox they've got an accessibility tab which does something similar to the audits tab, but the audits tab does a bit more analysis as well, I think. So it looks like it's got search engine optimization and performance recommendations and whatnot. So it feels like that button there is really about, hey, here's how you can improve your site. But there's a lot of overlaps with how the dev tools work. I don't know if we really discovered any bugs, but at least we discussed a few things from a usability point of view and a preference point of view.
There's one issue, so to speak, that's a bit stuck in my mind. Is that do you remember when you were using that CSS color selector? I really had the impression that it allowed you to pick any color on the screen, which would make it valuable. Yeah.
So yeah, potentially.
But I think, or at least I think it would make it valuable.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Or at least being able to do the color picker on other Chrome tabs, I think would make sense, especially if you got your design on one tab and whatnot. Because I know sometimes, I guess, accessing features outside of the application can be a little difficult sometimes, but who knows? Well, thanks again for coming on board, Philip. I hope you enjoyed this. I will.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. I'm going to just check we didn't have any questions. No, we didn't have any questions come through. But yeah, if you'd like to, if anyone would like to come on as a guest, feel free to reach out and book me in for a time. I really enjoyed doing this live testing. So thanks again.